My husband left his laptop open while showering. A chat titled "Our Secret Escape Plan" caught my eye. My hand shook as I clicked. The messages revealed his plan to drain our savings and disappear with another woman, my sister. Just then, his phone buzzed. Did she find out? I took a deep breath, typed a reply, and when he walked out, he turned pale at my next words. I never thought my life would turn into something out of a bad soap opera, but here we are. My husband, Mark, and I had been married for 10 years. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but I thought it was solid. We had a nice home, stable jobs, and a comfortable life. Nothing extravagant, but we were doing fine. Or at least, that's what I believed. I guess I was the idiot. It happened on a random Tuesday evening. I had just finished cleaning up the kitchen after dinner when Mark walked in and grabbed his laptop. He was distracted, mumbling something about work while typing away. I didn't think much of it. He was always working late. Then, he said he was going to take a shower. He left his laptop open on the dining table, something he never did. He was obsessive about closing tabs and logging out of things. But this time, the screen was still on. And a chat window was open. A message thread titled "Our Secret Escape Plan." At first, I thought it was some kind of joke. A dumb title for a work chat. Maybe something to do with a vacation? Then I saw the messages. And my world collapsed. Mark, we need to be careful. She can't find out until we're ready. Sister, I know. I'm working on it. She's been so distracted, it's almost too easy. Mark, we can't wait much longer. I've already started moving the money. She hasn't noticed yet. Sister, I can't wait to finally be with you. No more sneaking around. Just us. Somewhere beautiful. Mark, once the house sells, we'll have enough to disappear. She'll never see it coming. Sister, I almost feel bad. Almost. I read and reread those words, my hands frozen over the keyboard. My husband. My sister. Plotting behind my back. They weren't just cheating. They were stealing from me. They were planning to drain our savings, sell our house, and run away together like I was some disposable inconvenience. I could feel my heartbeat pounding in my ears. My face was hot, my hands ice cold. I scrolled up. There were months of messages. They talked about how stupid I was. How oblivious I had been. They laughed about lying to my face. About the nights I had spent comforting my sister through her rough patch when, in reality, she had been in my bed with my husband. I should have stopped reading. But I couldn't. Then his phone, sitting next to the laptop, buzzed. I looked down. Sister, did she find out? I inhaled sharply. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I picked up his phone. I typed a reply. Me, not yet. But I think she's getting suspicious. We should move faster. Then I hit send. And I waited. Mark walked out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, rubbing his hair dry. He looked at me. Then at the laptop. And he froze. His face changed in an instant. First, confusion. Then fear. I could see the exact second he realized what had happened. His jaw tightened. His body tensed like a trapped animal. His eyes darted to the phone in my hand. I didn't say anything. I just smiled. Something wrong? I asked. My voice was too calm. Too even. He didn't answer. He swallowed hard. He knew. And for the first time in our marriage, I saw fear in his eyes. I stood up slowly, still holding his phone. I kept my eyes on him, waiting to see what he would do. Would he lie? Would he make up some ridiculous excuse? Would he run? He opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. Nothing came out. Good. I wasn't done yet. The next few days were a blur. But one thing was clear, I wasn't going to let them win. She had always been good at pretending. Sweet. Supportive. The perfect sibling. Now I saw her for what she really was. A snake. And I was about to cut the head off. Over the next few weeks, I set things up carefully. Quietly. First, I met with a lawyer. I showed her everything. She was horrified. She told me exactly what to do. How to legally protect myself. How to make sure they couldn't take a dime from me. Then, I started setting my trap. I began slowly moving money out of the joint accounts. Making it look like normal transactions. I planted doubts in Mark's mind. I made offhand comments about how off our finances seemed lately. I even asked if he thought we should get a financial advisor. I watched as panic flickered across his face. Good. Then, I did something even better. I told my sister I had a big surprise for Mark. That I was planning something special for our anniversary. She took the bait immediately. She wanted details. She asked questions. I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was desperate to know what I was planning. So I told her. I said I was going to sign some documents soon. Investment papers for our future. I watched her eyes light up. And I knew. She was going to try to get me to sign something else. I continued playing the role of the clueless wife, pretending not to notice the glances Mark and my sister exchanged when they thought I wasn't looking. Pretending not to notice how my money kept disappearing in small, careful amounts. Pretending not to notice the tension in Mark's shoulders every time I mentioned anything about our finances. Then one night, he made his move. I was in the kitchen, pretending to scroll through recipes on my phone, when Mark casually walked in, holding a stack of papers. He tried to act relaxed, but I saw the tightness in his jaw. "Hey, babe," he said, leaning against the counter. I was thinking, you know how we talked about investing in a rental property? I found the perfect one. I already handled most of the paperwork, just need your signature to finalize it. I looked up at him, forcing confusion onto my face. Wait. I don't remember us talking about this. He smiled, but it was forced. Oh, we did. A while ago. You were probably half asleep. But don't worry, I took care of everything. This will secure our future. I looked up, forcing my face into a hesitant expression. I don't know, this seems like a big decision. Mark didn't flinch. He had expected this. I get it, babe, he said smoothly, stepping closer, rubbing my arm in that fake comforting way. But you trust me, right? That almost made me laugh. Trust him? I smiled softly instead. Of course. But I should probably read this carefully. Maybe even have a lawyer look it over? His entire body tensed for half a second before he forced himself to relax. Babe, he said, lowering his voice, it's not that complicated. If we get lawyers involved, it'll just slow everything down. I tapped the papers against the counter, pretending to consider. I'll read it tonight. If everything looks good, I'll sign it first thing tomorrow. Mark hesitated. I could see the wheels turning in his head. He wanted me to sign now. But if he pushed too hard, I might get suspicious. So he nodded, plastering on a smile. That sounds great, babe. I knew you'd be on board. I kissed his cheek and took the papers to my office. I sat down, staring at them. Then I picked up my phone and dialed my lawyer. The next morning, I woke up to my sister's name flashing on my phone. I let it ring twice before answering. Hey, she chirped, way too cheerful for someone who thought she was about to rob her own sister blind. Morning, I said, keeping my voice neutral. So, she drew out the word, Mark mentioned you were finally signing those papers today. That's exciting. I closed my eyes for a brief second, gripping the phone tighter. She couldn't even wait an hour before checking in. Yeah, I said, forcing a yawn. I looked them over last night. Everything seems fine. Silence. Then she let out a breath, like she had been holding it. That's great. I was actually thinking we should celebrate soon. Maybe a sister's night out? Oh, now she wanted to be a loving sister. That sounds nice, I said. Let's talk later, okay? Of course. Love you. I hung up. I sat there for a long time, staring at nothing. Then I smiled. They thought they had won. They had no idea what was coming next. Around noon, Mark left for an important meeting. He kissed me on the forehead and told me to call him once I signed the papers. As soon as he was gone, I grabbed my keys and drove straight to the bank. I walked up to the manager's desk, took out my ID, and slid it across the table. I need to make some changes to my accounts, I said. Within an hour, I had transferred all my money into a new account under my name only. Frozen the joint account before Mark could touch another dollar. Removed his name from every shared asset. By the time Mark came home, the financial noose around his neck was already tightening. That evening, I set the papers neatly on the table, acting like I had finally made my decision. Mark walked in, saw the papers, and smiled. So, he said, keeping his voice light, you finally signed? I nodded. Great. Let me take a look, I held up a hand. Actually, I sent them to our lawyer this morning. Just to be sure. His face dropped. Our, what? I pulled an envelope from my bag and slid it toward him. And I have something for you, too. He hesitated before picking it up. The second he opened it, his hands shook. Sister, is it done? Did she sign? Mark was caught. He knew it. And I was just getting started. Mark was still frozen, staring at the screen like the message from my sister had personally slapped him across the face. His fingers twitched, like he wanted to turn the phone over, hide the evidence, pretend I hadn't seen it. Too late for that. I tilted my head, waiting. Well? His eyes snapped up to mine. For the first time, I saw real panic. I don't know what this is, he stammered. Oh, how the mighty fall. I let out a small, amused breath. You don't know what this is? Should I remind you? I gestured at his phone. Because I'm pretty sure that's my sister asking if you successfully screwed me over. Mark swallowed hard. His face was getting paler by the second. This isn't what it looks like, he tried again. Wrong move. I stood up, placing my palms flat on the table. It's exactly what it looks like. But don't worry, Mark. I already took care of everything. Our accounts? Separated. The house? Mine. The savings? Moved. The divorce? Filed. And you? I gave him a slow, deliberate smile. You're left with nothing. His mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Then his phone buzzed again. I glanced down. Sister, Mark? Why aren't you answering? Mark suddenly lunged for his phone, but I was faster. I snatched it off the table and held it up. Now, I wonder what she's so desperate to say. I clicked open their chat. The latest messages were a goldmine. Sister, Mark, what's going on? Sister, she just called me about the divorce. What the hell? Sister, you told me she wouldn't figure it out. Sister, I thought we were leaving together. Sister, did you get the money or not? I slowly lifted my gaze back to Mark. He looked like he was about to vomit. Leaving together, huh? I mused, reading over the messages again. So you weren't just planning to steal from me. You were planning to run. Disappear. Start over somewhere new while I sat here, blindsided and broken. Mark didn't say a word. He didn't even blink. He was trapped, and he knew it. You two really thought I was that stupid? I asked, shaking my head. You thought you could lie to my face, rob me, and then what? Expect me to just crumble? Mark took a shaky breath. I can explain. I laughed. Actually laughed. Explain? Mark, your explanation is right here in black and white. I waved his phone in front of him. You were just waiting for me to sign everything over so you could leave me in the dust. And what, my sister would comfort me while secretly packing her bags to go with you. The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. That was exactly the plan. But they underestimated me. And now? I was going to destroy them both. I stared at his phone for a second, then smirked. You know what? I said, clicking on my sister's name. Let's call her. Right now. Mark's face drained of color. No, he lunged for the phone again, but I pulled back. Oh, now you don't want to talk to her? I taunted. Weird, you were just so eager to run off with her. Before he could grab me, I hit dial. Mark froze. The phone rang once. Twice. Then, my sister picked up. Mark. Finally. What the hell is going on? I put the phone on speaker. Hey, sis, I said sweetly. Dead. Silence. Then, I watched as he scrambled to think of something, anything, to fix this. His mind was probably racing. Should he lie? Beg? Try to turn it around on me? Then he did something I didn't expect. He dropped to his knees. Literally fell to the floor, gripping my hands like some desperate man in a soap opera. Babe, listen, he pleaded. I made a mistake. I was confused. It didn't mean anything. Please, we can fix this. I stared at him. This man. This pathetic, crawling man, who just 24 hours ago was plotting to ruin me, was now on his knees begging me to forgive him. And for the first time in months, maybe even years, I felt nothing for him. Not love. Not anger. Not even disgust. Just nothing. Stand up, Mark, I said, voice steady. He obeyed, shaky and pathetic. You're not sorry, I continued. You're just sorry you got caught. His eyes flickered with something. He knew I was right. I took a deep breath, tilting my head. You want me to forgive you? He nodded frantically. Fine, I said. Relief flooded his face. His shoulders relaxed. He actually believed it. I smiled. But first, pack your bags. You're leaving tonight. Mark stood there, mouth slightly open, like his brain was still buffering what I had just said. Pack my bags, he repeated, voice shaky. I crossed my arms. Yeah. You're leaving tonight. Unless you'd prefer me to call the police and have them escort you out. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. His entire body was stiff, barely keeping it together. For a split second, I saw something dark flicker in his expression, rage. Not regret, not shame. Just anger at losing control of me, of the situation. You're seriously kicking me out, he said through gritted teeth. I raised an eyebrow. What part of you tried to rob me blind and run away with my sister makes you think you're still welcome here? His jaw tightened. He opened his mouth, closed it, then exploded. You don't understand, he shouted, slamming his fist against the table. It wasn't like that. I held up a hand. Save it. I saw everything, Mark. You were this close to pulling it off. But you didn't. And now, you have nothing. His face twisted into something ugly. His eyes darted to the phone still in my hand. He was thinking about grabbing it. Don't, I warned, voice cold. You touch me, and I will ruin you even more than I already have. He hesitated. I took a step forward. Pack your bags. For a moment, I thought he might refuse. That he might fight. Then, he exhaled sharply and stormed past me, slamming the bedroom door so hard the walls shook. I wasn't done yet. While Mark was in the bedroom, probably stuffing a bag with whatever he could grab, I picked up his phone again. I called my sister. She picked up immediately. Mark? What's going on? Did she? Oh, it's me, I interrupted. Mark's a little busy packing his bags. Dead. Silence. Come over, I said, voice sharp. Now. She didn't respond. Or don't, I continued. But if you don't, I'll send screenshots of your little secret escape plan to everyone. Mom. Dad. Your boss. Your husband. A strangled gasp. You wouldn't, try me. A long pause. Then, I'll be there in 10 minutes. I was standing by the door when she arrived. She hesitated on the porch, face pale, eyes darting around like she was considering making a run for it. Inside, I ordered. She swallowed and stepped in. The second the door shut, I turned on her. Sit. She obeyed. She always had a way of playing the victim when cornered, big eyes, trembling hands, acting like she was just a confused little girl who didn't mean to hurt anyone. I wasn't falling for it. Talk, I said. Her hands twisted together in her lap. She opened her mouth, then burst into tears. I didn't mean for this to happen, she sobbed. I swear, it just happened. I stared at her, unmoved. Did it? Did you just accidentally start an affair with my husband? Did you just accidentally plan to steal my money and run away? She sniffled. I was in a bad place. I was lonely. And Mark, he made me feel special. I let out a humorless laugh. Oh, he made you feel special? That's what this is about. You were bored, so you decided to wreck my life? She shook her head furiously. No. I mean, I wasn't thinking straight. And Mark, he told me he wasn't happy. That you were controlling, that you didn't love him anymore. I sucked in a sharp breath, the rage burning through me. So what? I snapped. Even if that were true, which it's not, you thought that gave you the right to take everything from me? More silence. Say it, I demanded. Admit it. Admit you were going to take my money, my home, my whole life, and disappear. She started sobbing again. Say it. Her shoulders shook. Then, in a voice so small it was almost a whisper, yes. A tearful confession. But no true remorse. She was crying because she got caught. The bedroom door burst open, and Mark stormed out, dragging a half-zipped suitcase behind him. His eyes locked onto my sister, then onto me. You're really doing this, he said, voice low. I folded my arms. You did this to yourself. His nostrils flared. He turned to my sister. You told her everything? She flinched. Mark, you stupid bitch, he roared. I didn't even blink. I had never seen him this unhinged before, but I was ready for it. My sister jumped up, stumbling backward. I didn't mean to, you ruined everything. Mark bellowed. I stepped between them. No. You ruined everything. And now you're going to leave my house. He turned to me, chest heaving. You're a heartless bitch, he spat. You think you won? You think this is over? I raised an eyebrow. Oh, honey, I said, voice dripping with amusement. This was over the moment you left your laptop open. I turned to my sister. You too. Get out. Her face crumpled. But, I don't have anywhere to go, not my problem. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Mark grabbed his suitcase and stormed out. My sister hesitated, eyes filled with tears. Please, she whispered. I know I messed up. But I'm your sister. Can't we fix this? I stared at her. You stopped being my sister the moment you decided to betray me. Her face shattered. Then, with one last choked sob, she turned and walked out. I shut the door behind her and locked it. And just like that, they were gone. For the first time in weeks, I felt peace. No more lies. No more sneaking around. No more living with the people who had betrayed me the most. I wasn't broken. I wasn't ruined. I was free. The divorce? Already in motion. The financial damage? Reversed. I still had my home, my money, and, most importantly, myself. The pain would come later. The grief. The exhaustion. But right now? I sat at my kitchen table, alone, and smiled. Because I had won. And they? They had lost everything.